Today we're going to be trying to make a multi-axis triangular tool handle. The advantage of this is that it's really comfortable to grip, and you can make it any size you want. So as you get older, if I've gotten older, I find that having a bigger handle is more comfortable. So the first thing to do is the layout on the piece, and the layout is critical on this. So actually much of the work in the project is just in the layout phase. So first of all, you want to find the center on the piece, and I'll do that by just crossing the diagonals. And one thing to keep in mind is that when you turn the tenon on the end, the piece has to be big enough that the tenon will fit in your chuck. So you can then take and set dividers or compass to the diameter that you want. In this case, I'm going to go for 1 inch and 3/4. So I'll set my radius to 7/8, and then I'm going to switch to metric. So there's my 7/8. So you'll see why in a minute, but it's easier to do this in metric. So this looks like I've got just about 44 millimeters. And the middle circle is 0.77 times the outside circle. So that means I have a 22 millimeter radius. So as you can see, 22 times 0.77 is just about 17. So I'll set my compass to 17 millimeters and draw the middle circle. So here I'm going to set to 17 millimeters. That looks pretty good there. And describe that circle. And then my inner circle diameter is 12 millimeters, or half in diameter less, or 6 millimeters smaller than the middle radius. So 17 minus 6 is 11. So again, we'll set here for 11 millimeters, and we'll draw that one. And now we want to mark off 1/3 of the way around the 2 inner circles. And so need to open the compass up just a hair and step off. And I'll label this number 1 over here. And let's see how close I've come. Okay. And so I want to know my number 1, and then 2 steps over is number 2. And 2 more steps is number 3. And we go back to the 17 millimeters and step off the middle circle. So again, points 1, points 2, and points 3. Okay, so I'll just mark my center a little better with the awl. Okay, so this is of course where my center will go when I turn the piece around, and these are where the centers will go when we do the offset turns. So now I'm going to turn it over and do the other end. This corner is corner number 1, or position number 1. So we'll just mark that so I know which one it is. Okay, so here we've turned the piece over and laid out the second end, making sure that number 1 is in the same position. But notice here that reverse the direction of numbering, so that here I'm going counterclockwise, whereas on the first side I went clockwise. So here it's 1, 2, 3. And the reason for doing that is so that 1 will line up with 1, 2 will line up with 2, and 3 will line up with 3, which will give a straight 3-sided handle. If you wanted a twisted one, then you could do the clockwise rotation on both ends. So, okay, so now we're ready to go and move to the lathe. I've mounted my piece, and we're going to make 2 handles out of this piece of stock. It's big enough for that. So I'll rotate it by hand to make sure that I've got clearance. And then we'll just knock the corners off and turn a cylinder, and then I'll put a tenon on each end so I can grip the piece later. So I'm going to take it up to about 1200 RPM. Okay, so now we have a cylinder, so the next thing I'm going to do is check my diameter here and see if I need to put a tenon on the end. It may be that I'm small enough I don't need to actually put a tenon on there. We'll just use the existing size. Okay, so I'm going to do some layout marks on here. I found my center, and then I marked off 3/4 of an inch, and this will be where the ferrule goes, with room for a parting tool cut. And then I'll end my handle here, and the other one here. So I've laid out where the ferrules are going to go and the ends. What I'm going to do now is do peeling cuts to do some relieving at either end, and then I'm also going to rough turn the place for the ferrules. We're going to use a 3/4 inch pipe, which actually, piece of copper tubing, which actually measures 807 or 8 thousandths internal. So I'll take it down to 7/8 of an inch for rough turning. locate my offset number 1 on both ends, and then mount that between centers. Again, I'm mounting on the inner circle, which is where I punched my locator holes. Now this will of course be an interrupted cut. I've tried several different tools, and I find what I like best for this is my small radius skew. So this is the small radius, the 3/4 inch radius skew, and I found that this gives me a fast cut and also a fairly smooth one, given that this is going to be such an interrupted cut. You do have to check because you can see this is really eccentric. So you want to be certain that you have good tool rest clearance. I'm going to raise the tool rest here a little bit because with the skew I like to be fairly high on the piece. Make sure everything's locked down. And what you do is you bring the piece up to the fastest speed you can run at without shaking the lathe to pieces. So. Here I'm running at about 750. Okay, now I'm going to move to set number 2. Okay, now I'm going to change to side 3. Seem to have gotten a fair amount of chipping out on this one. So, see if I can clean it up a little. I'm going to try my big skew. Okay, now I'm going to mark the parting cuts from my ferrules. And here you can note that I've remounted the piece on the centers rather than the offsets. So I guess I'll just part this off here and then we'll take this off after we rechuck the piece. Okay, so now we'll switch to a chuck. So I'm going to use a rotating tailstock adapter and another chuck. Very good. Okay. Okay, so now we'll need to measure the bits and pick a drill and put a Jacobs chuck in and bore a hole. So it looks like we're 250 thousandths across the flats and about 280 across the corners. Okay, so we're a little bit oversized on the ferrule, so we'll take a little bit more off there. I'll caliper the ferrule here. Looks like I'm about 812 thousandths. Yeah, so looks like we're fitted pretty well here. Be a drive-on fit. So there's a couple approaches here. You could either finish off the handle here and part it off first and then press the screwdriver bit in and press the ferrule on. I think what we're going to try doing is putting the bit in and the ferrule on first and then parting it off on this one, and maybe we'll do the other one the other way. Nice. Well, there we have a screwdriver. Just need to thin off the end a little bit. I'll probably do that on the power sander.